So you have your PC, but it doesn't look appealing enough. Well, I'm going to show you a few minor cheap things you can do to your PC to make it look great. The $750 PC I built a few weeks ago, that I'll leave a link in the description if you haven't seen it yet, will make a good model for this project. This case is very plain looking and has no side window, but we can fix that. The first step I'm going to do is cut a side window into the case. Now my case already has a protruded section on the side which will give me a nice line guide for cutting. I'm using a piece of acrylic which is 30cm by 30cm, which will fit nicely on the side panel and only cost me $10 from eBay. If you have just a flat side panel, you should find a piece of acrylic that will cover 60 to 70% of the panel. Then, as a line guide, come in by 3 to 5 cm on each of the 4 sides, so you have enough surface area of the side panel to glue the acrylic window on comfortably. For this project, you will need a file. I'm using a round file because my cutouts have rounded edges, safety glasses, a Dremel with a metal cutting disc or some other device capable of cutting metal safely and accurately, painter's tape, a permanent marker, and some form of glue that will allow acrylic to adhere to metal, like araldite. Make sure you find a glue that will stick to polymer plastics, as a lot of glues do not support this type of plastic. Step 1 is to cover the front and back of the panel in painter's tape, then trace around the protruding piece, unless your panel is flat, in which case you can place your piece of acrylic on the panel in the area you wish to have it, then trace around it. After you have traced your acrylic, grab a tape measure or ruler and measure your 3 to 5 cm line in on each side. This will be your cutting line, although you will want to cut slightly in from the line to give yourself some leeway. Grab your safety glasses and preferred metal cutting device and set up your panel off the ground in a safe work area. I used a cardboard box in my garage. Make sure you take your time and try to cut as straight as possible, but with a Dremel it is quite difficult, and I should have secured the panel to the box to stop it from moving, as it is not advised to put your hand in front of the cutting device. Once you've cut all the way through on each side, it's time to inspect your work. If you have jagged edges like mine, this is where the file comes in handy to smooth all the lines out. But if you have done a horrible job like myself or want to hide the sharp edges, you can use this stuff called rubber trim pinch weld, which costs $11 for 1.5 meters of it, and I would highly recommend it, as you just push it firmly on the edges of the panel and it has enough strength to hold itself on. The next step is optional, but it will help. Measure in and mark your 3 to 5 cm margin on each side of the acrylic panel. Then peel back the plastic protector just before the line. Get a piece of sandpaper or a sanding block of about 300 grit and sand the piece of acrylic on all 4 sides, but only up to just before the line. This will allow the panel to stick better. Now add your glue to both the area on the side panel you are putting the acrylic and on the edges of the acrylic panel itself after removing the plastic entirely from that side of the piece of acrylic. Leave the panel until it is dried, then remove the protective plastic off the other side of the acrylic and you are done, and now have a side window. Now you have a side window, you can see the ugly ketchup and mustard power cables that's just not pleasing to the eye. So remove the power supply and tape up all the end connectors using the painter's tape. It is also advised to put the power supply in a bag and tape the end shut so as not to get the paint on the inner workings of it. Choose a spray paint that matches the colour you are going for in your build, but Plasti Dip would be the best decision, but unfortunately they don't sell it at my local hardware store. Make sure you have ample room to spray paint and you are painting on a clean surface like cardboard. Start spraying a thin coat from left to right, leaving about an hour in between each coat to allow some drying time. It took me 4 coats to get the majority of the cables black before flipping my power supply over and coating the other side as well. Once you are happy, leave it to dry for at least 24 hours before trying to use the power supply. Unfortunately, it is next to impossible to coat the entirety of each cable and the paint will flake off the more you touch it or try to bend the cable. It's time to reinstall the power supply and see how it all looks. I also painted my front I/O connectors and the rear I/O shield. After all that effort, you want to be able to see your hard work at night, so I have these 2 30cm Molex connected blue LED strips that cost $5 each. They have adhesive 3M tape on the back, making them easy to stick to the interior of your case. That's it, we're done and have a completely different looking PC. It may not be perfect, but I must admit it looks a lot better than the plain PC I started off with, and I'm happy with it. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. And if you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing for more tutorials and other videos in the future. If you have a suggestion, question or criticism, leave a comment, and thank you very much for watching.